We're at the halfway point. 4 rounds run out of a total of 8 to be held in the 24th Australian Touring Car Championship. A title that was first run in 1960, and for that year and the next 3 was won by Jaguar. But it's a title that's been dominated by Ford. Ford Mustangs won it 5 times, Ford Falcons have won it 5 times. Altogether, 11 titles for the Ford mark compared to 8 for General Motors. This year, however, looks to be very different because it's looking almost certain that it will be won by one of 2 Japanese cars, either a Nissan Bluebird Turbo or perhaps a Mazda Wankel RX-7. Won by one of 2 Japanese cars, either a Nissan Bluebird Turbo or perhaps a Mazda Wankel RX-7. The Wankel of Alan Moffat has the speed of every car on the track. And already today in the first practice session he looks to have sewn up pole position. But last weekend we saw a pit stop because Alan said that he had to run very light fuel load to make the car competitive up the hill at Wanneroo. That was a ploy that most of the other teams feel was just that, no more than a ploy. They say it wasn't necessary at all and wouldn't have benefited him at all and was used by him to influence Cams to give him more advantages in running his car and perhaps to give him a later, more powerful 13B specification Wankel engine. Alan Grice, for instance, says that Moffat laid a 61-metre strip of rubber when he came out of the pit, and that it was only 61 metres because he had to pick up second gear. Peter Brock's team say 35 pounds weight of fuel makes absolutely no difference, and they quote that his fastest lap in the first session was lap 4, and the first 2 laps after his refuel were his 2 fastest in the race. The Nissan team say that 35 pounds of fuel is about 1% of the total load of the car and couldn't possibly influence the outright result. So he has the measure of the cars on the track, but does he have it in the point score? And that's what we're going to find out this weekend at Adelaide Raceway as they go into round 5.
A 57.4 second unofficial lap, Alan. That's 0.3 under your pole position qualifying time last year, and 1.3 under the record, 1.6 under the record. Must feel good.
Well, we're very competitive here, John. The circuits, the corners are quite quick, and I can keep my revs up, and provided we have the car handling and it doesn't scare me too much, I can get onto the front straight. That doesn't really mean that we're going to be all that effective in the race. I mean, we're competitive. But a lap time is just an elapsed time. And it's where you do it that counts. So if the other blokes are going down the straight, not twice as fast, but certainly faster, then it is still an effort to catch up. It doesn't matter what your lap time is. All that lap time says is that they shouldn't get too far away from me in the race. It doesn't mean that I've got the ability to lead it.
Off the start tomorrow, can the V8s beat you in the drag race for the first time?
Well, that's what we're concerned about. I have to get an absolutely terrific start, and after the one in Perth, perhaps maybe I can. And being on the front row, naturally, you're not giving away any yardage to anybody else, so it is a genuine drag race down into the top first corner. That'll be interesting. That'll add a little spice to it.
And there's the team that we're talking about, the man in charge, the Canadian-born Alan Moffat, whose start at Wanneroo was absolutely electric. As Howard Marsden of the Nissan team says, he's now showing a lot more confidence in the strength of the transmission of that car than they used to show. It was one of the weaker points of the car and had to be treated fairly gingerly off the start line. But Alan Moffat gave it everything at Wanneroo, obviously because he had to get a good start to be able to mix it with and, if possible, get in front of the V8 before he made his pit stop. So it gave him very little time. But the car really lacks for very little at any point of the circuit. And that's the point that's now starting to needle a lot of the V8 drivers, particularly the Marlborough Holden dealer team. It's really getting under their skin, and particularly Peter Brock. Peter Brock at Wanneroo last weekend and here at Adelaide Raceway has really been privately over the start line, but Alan Moffat gave it everything at Wanneroo, obviously because he had to get a good start to to be able to mix it with and, if possible, get in front of the V8 before he made his pit stop. So it gave him very little time. But the car really lacks for very little at any point of the circuit. And that's the point that's now starting to needle a lot of the V8 drivers, particularly the Marlborough Holden dealer team. It's really getting under their skin, and particularly Peter Brock. Peter Brock at Wanneroo last weekend and here at Adelaide Raceway has really been privately opening out about what he thinks about Alan Moffat, car 43, whether it should be classified as a touring car. And this is the man that's having a fairly hard time of it at the moment. Some wonderful quick laps on some new Dunlops at the end of practice last weekend. Saw Brock grab pole position, but we saw a very rare spin from him, you'll remember, late in the race. And he finally came home ninth. And earlier today, we were talking with the man that's won 6 Bathursts and 3 Australian Touring Car Championships.
Peter Brock, after your brake lock up at Wanneroo last weekend, you went fishing. Did you catch anything?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we got into quite a lot of fish, mainly Spanish mackerel, quite a few tuna and snapper and cold trout and all sorts of things.
Well, you've only just arrived at the circuit here. You must be fairly confident of the car's condition.
Well, I figured that the way it was at Adelaide, at Wanneroo, that it was very, very close to being right for Adelaide, because both circuits have corners where you require very good turning. They're both circuits with long corners. But you get the car turning in very, very well. And Larry had assured me that the car was steering well. I went out early this morning with just some old tyres on, did 3 or 4 laps. And I honestly came in and said, look, I don't think there's a great deal we can do to it. It's about as good as we're going to get it.
Well, you're second under the record, but you're still 0.6 of a second outside Moffat. Do you have an answer for him?
No, all I can assume is that, and Larry had assured me that the car was steering well. I went out early this morning with just some old tyres on, did 3 or 4 laps. And I honestly came in and said, look, I don't think there's a great deal we can do to it. It's about as good as we're going to get it.
Well, you're second under the record, but you're still 0.6 of a second outside Moffat. Do you have an answer for him?
No, all I can assume is that Moffat won't be able to go that fast with race tyres. I only can hope that. His car has been very, very quick at this circuit. Then again, off the line and the load of fuel and everything else, it seems to even things out a little. But it's going to be a very, very close affair, I'm sure of that.
Young David Parsons is a dairy farmer down in Tasmania and very much doing it on a limited budget. He was helped across the Wanneroo by Warren Cullen. And we were talking to him earlier today after he was brought back to Adelaide Raceway by Warren Cullen's transporter.
David, 10th in the series isn't bad without a real sponsor or any real money to back you.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a bit of a struggle, but I suppose we'll get there one day.
Well, why are you persevering?
Well, it's a bit of a challenge. It's just one of those things. I like a bit of a challenge, and it's sort of in my blood a little bit, and I just love it.
You won Rookie of the Year at Bathurst last year. You've been nominated by one of the motoring magazines as being the find of 1982, and yet you're still back in the pack. It must be...
It's just one of those things. I like a bit of a challenge, and it's sort of in my blood a little bit, and I just love it.
You won Rookie of the Year at Bathurst last year. You've been nominated by one of the motoring magazines as being the find of 1982, and yet you're still back in the pack. It must be frustrating.
It certainly is. Yeah, as far as sponsorship and that goes, there's a lot of top drivers around that haven't got sponsorship, and it's all power for a young fella to start off to get sponsorship, and also you've got to actually do the experience, and it's hard to put an old head on young shoulders.
George Fury is the man that's leading the championship and who's done a very good time earlier today, only one car faster than he, and that is the Alan Moffat Mazda. And George is smiling, playing it very much team orders from team manager Howard Marsden, but in a very good position in the championship if he